Well, can the early voting trend predict the turnout and what will happen on November 8th? Judith Miller joins us, adjunct professor and fellow at the Manhattan Institute for Policy Research and a Fox News contributor. Judy, always good to see you, of course.
Good to see you, Eric.
Following up on Garrett's report, North Carolina and Florida are two states that the Trump campaign says he must win. And early voting there shows that more Republicans are casting ballots than Democrats. But then again, in some other states like Arizona and Nevada, Democrats are apparently ahead in the early voting. So, what do you think these trends show you?
Well, I think the fact that more women are asking for early voting ballots is more indicative of how this race is likely to go, because women normally are not single-issue voters, but I think they're shaping up this time to be what I would call negative-issue voters. And that is that we see a lot of indications that women are very enthusiastic to vote against Donald Trump, and especially because in the swing states that I looked at, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, there are more women Democrats asking for ballots and showing up to be early voters. And that cannot be good for Donald Trump. Look, you call women ugly, pigs, and now his latest epithet, nasty, you are going to get a very strong reaction from women, and not just necessarily Democratic women. So I think this is if I were in the Trump campaign, I would be enormously worried about these early voting figures.
You mentioned North Carolina. I mean, 87,000 Democratic ballots from women, 60,000 apparently from the Republicans.
Right.
I mean, could it not just be that? But look, Hillary could be the first woman president. Is that driving women more, do you think, or it's a reaction to what Trump has said?
No, I think it's both. I mean, there's a historical opportunity, just as there was in the last election, to elect a first black American as president of the United States. Of course, a lot of women, irrespective of their political leanings, would like to break through that glass ceiling at last. But I don't think that's as much of a factor as Donald Trump's repeated attacks on women, starting with Rosie O'Donnell, continuing with our very own Megyn Kelly, right up to his epithet this weekend just after the debate, when he called Hillary a nasty woman. Now, you can disagree with Hillary Clinton and disagree with the Democrats and everything they stand for, but when you are actually disagreeable and disparaging of women, women take note, in the same way that his very boorish and bullish behavior on that stage was inappropriate. And I'm sure that Kellyanne Conway, who is a very talented campaign manager, has been telling him this again and again and again, but he seems unable to control this almost knee-jerk desire to attack and assault the very people, 53% of the electorate, whom he needs to help become president. It's kind of mystifying.
Yeah, and one thing you left out, of course, is that Billy Bush tape, when he talked about the groping and the grabbing. I mean, right after that tape came out, the new poll showed that Mrs. Clinton has skyrocketed with women. The ABC News poll shows there's a 20-point gap now between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, specifically after that tape.
And it's because we heard what he said and what he thinks in his own voice. There's no amount of, when you hear words like that and you see that it prompts Michelle Obama, who until now had not really been a great factor, call this just inappropriate and unacceptable, and how do we feel when our children are listening to this? I think from that moment on, the campaign was basically in terrible, terrible trouble. Now, people like me have been saying from the very beginning, you cannot base a campaign on kind of racist, xenophobic, and sexist sentiments and expect to create a morning in America, as Ronald Reagan did. You cannot get Democratic voters to turn out in great numbers. The question, I think, for the Hillary people is, will minority voters turn out? Will Democrats turn out in sufficient numbers to elect her? If they stay home, if they're turned off by these emails or by the foundation or by whatever, her personality, if they stay home, Donald Trump could still pull it off, but I see that as most unlikely at this stage.
Yeah, and finally, they're going to have a double whammy For the first time, Hillary Clinton and Michelle Obama, we're told, are going to be campaigning soon, so that should probably try, at least from their point of view, try to bring it home. Judy Miller, good to see you. Thank you for your insight, as always, and analysis, of course.
Thank you.
All right,